So this is the Jagdpanther Big Brother, the E100 mega tank that Germany never built. So if you guys are into wargaming or World of Tanks, you definitely know what this tank is all about. Anyway, we're going to get into the specs and see how it compares to other German tanks from World War II. And always, let's get started. So this is the Jagdpanther Big Brother, and it's the E100 mega tank that Germany never built. And it's a good thing because this thing was a mega tank by far. But if you guys are into wargaming or World of Tanks, you definitely know what this tank is all about. But if you don't know what the E-Series of tanks were, we're going to get into that right now. And uh, E-Series tanks was on a drawing board towards the end of the war for Germany, and they wanted to develop a line of tanks that they can standardize parts for. For example, each tank series would have it the same, maybe the same engines or wheel configuration. Suspension parts could be interchanged between different tanks. But there was 5 different E-Series tanks. So it started off with the E10, E25, the E50, and the E75, then the super heavy tank, which was the E100, which you see here. The E100 super tank was going to come in a couple different variants. The non-turret, which you see here, a turret version, and another version where the main gun was sitting further back on the main hull. But I don't know too much about that particular tank. Um, but definitely, this E100 tank is definitely a tank on steroids by far. Um, like I said, the E100, it was supposed to be a super heavyweight tank and weighing about 123 tons compared to like a King Tiger, which was around 75 tons, or a Jagdpanther around 50 tons. So the E100 was going to have a 6-man crew, was going to be powered by a Maybach 1200 horsepower engine with a max speed of 25 miles per hour, which is not too shabby for a tank of this size. Transmission was definitely going to be made by Maybach, 8 forward, 4 reverse, independent coil suspension, which is different compared to torsion bar suspensions that you find on the Tiger 1 and the King Tiger. The main gun, which sets it apart from other World War II tanks, is a 128 millimeter L55. That can penetrate any armor that the US or even Russia could throw at it. So it's a good thing this tank was never put into production. Frontal armor was going to be between 150 to 200 millimeters thick, and the sides of it was going to be very impressive, 120 to 150 millimeters thick of armor. So pretty much anything that the U.S. or Russia could throw at this, it's not going to penetrate the armor on this particular tank by far. This particular tank is very similar to the Mouse that was in development, and I believe 2 was actually built of the Mouse. But they share a lot of characteristics between the 2 tanks, the Mouse and the E100 tank. So I personally feel that Germany was definitely going in the wrong direction when it comes to development of their tanks. Adolf Hitler was under the impression that bigger was going to be always better. But I personally think if they built a mass amount of Panther tanks, which I think was probably one of the best tanks that Germany built, and if they built a massive amount of Panther tanks, it could have changed the outlook of the war by far. But thank God for that. Hitler always thought bigger was better, and that was one of his downfalls in World War II. So good thing for the U.S. and good thing for the USSR that more Panther tanks were not made, um, and Germany went off trying to develop bigger tanks. But they had the right idea in doing the E-Series. E-Series was going to uh, cut costs, standardize equipment, of course, across the whole line of E-Series. For example, like I said before, maybe tracks, wheels, engines, transmissions, maybe the main gun, for example, machine guns. But there was a lot of things that would interchange between all of the tanks. So if it broke down in the battlefield, it could be fixed very easily. And as you know, all German tanks are very complicated machines. So, and most of them fell apart before they even got on the battlefield. And the other thing to point out about the E series, especially with the E100, at a whopping 123 tons, how are you going to transport this monster? It's probably not going to go on rail by far because it's overweight, and most bridges aren't going to support that kind of weight. So how it was going to get to point A to point B would be a logistics nightmare for Germany. Um, but anyway, let's get into comparing this tank to other uh, German tanks of World War II. So I thought I would do a comparison first with the Jagdpanther compared to the E100. And you can see the massive difference between the two tanks on size, the gun, and just how massive this E100 was going to be compared to other German tanks from World War II. So let me get an overhead shot for you guys so you can see. Let me zoom back out. There you go. You can see the difference in size between the two tanks. And let's get a rear shot here of the differences. Now let's throw a Jagdtiger up here. Now a Jagdtiger was very big um, for its size compared to other German tanks. I mean, Jagdtiger had a whopping 75 tons. You think that was heavy. Um, and you compare that to the E100 at a massive, 123 tons? Wow, that's a lot of tonnage. But let me get an overhead shot for you guys. You can see the difference between the two tanks. Let me move this forward just a tiny bit to make it equal. There we go. So you can see how massive this tank. Now let me throw a Jagdtiger onto here. And that was an even bigger tank. Slightly bigger than the Jagdtiger. So let me get a frontal shot here. Now still, by comparison, the E100 to the Jagdtiger is still a massive tank. Let me get a back shot here between the two tanks. Now something I want to definitely compare this E100 to is a Sherman. Let's get this Sherman here. Let's get a frontal shot here. This E100 just dwarfs this Sherman by far. Not alone its massive gun. Let's get a rear shot here, and I'll get an overhead shot. And you can definitely see the size difference there. So as I said before, it's a good thing this monster never went into production, because the Allies and USSR would have its hands full. But let me know what you guys think about the E100, or if you've been on World of Tanks and you've used this tank on the battlefield in that game, or if you use them in war gaming. Let me know. So here is a side-by-side of all the tanks all together that I showed you earlier here. I just want to get you guys a perspective of all these tanks together and how big they really were compared to each other. And as you can see, the E100 was going to be a massive tank if it was ever put into production. Let's see if I can get a side by side like that. That's a good shot. Get a rear shot here. All these tanks together. So like I said earlier, guys, I consider this the Jagdpanther's big brother, E100 tank that Germany never built, and a good thing. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this tank. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please hit that like button and subscribe button so you can keep up to date on our latest videos. Until next time, guys, have a good one.